My name's Aiden.
I'm Ron.
I'm Aiden. Let's go for a track walk.
Going on the front straight right now. One thing about this track, and the biggest thing about this track, is the amount of elevation changes that are inside of it. You probably won't notice by driving. If you walk in, we'll be able to show you. There's 3 bumps down the front straight. Right now, we're going down the first bump where the grids are, across the second one, and by the track making the sign, across the third one. It's not something that would affect your driving or really have much of an impact on anything, but just food for thought to start saying all the little changes in this track.
As you can see, all boats starts about right here. It's about where those grid up lines are at.
Yeah. That makes it loud. Great. Our track only check the flag wave with the flag stand for where you're just coming from. And then change it right there. You have a lot of time, as you're seeing right now, to actually slow down. And we saw that time. Here's that. Only in this direction. We don't do a pull down lap. Pull down lap is just going down the front straight. Hold the brakes. You're gonna start to see how deep the braking zone is. These carts, honestly, the amount of camber that is in the roller coaster, you don't even need to brake. You just let off the gas and put it in there. It's a lot more consistent to brake. Once you start pushing the higher echelon, especially if you have a bit of weight, you're at least weight 190. You can have the grip in order to do a brake test. But I don't. Some people do. I'm on the brakes still really late. Really late. We're going to the traditionally it's wet. Halfway down the road, but I'm letting off the gas. But in the drive, push a little more than that. Ahead. It is a nice day today. Tractor fighting pretty fascinating.
So I see what the road for the most part. So for the most part.
That's more. Right here. First, like I said, genuine braking zone of the track is also probably, in my opinion, one of the worst places to try to make a pass on this racetrack. Mikey, do you have any experience trying to pass a roller coaster?
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it, dude.
If you attempt to pass a roller coaster, I can almost guarantee you will smack to the person on the outside. If you're trying to take on the outside, you're wide and you're straight to those barriers. Definitely try not to pass when you're going to the roller coaster. You should only be really looking for a pass when you're exiting roller coaster or going.
Yeah. We'll go over that in a bit. Right here is 2 braking markers that I use, which is some of the strips. We have this strip of asphalt right here. And you have this strip right here. Right there, off the gas. Right here, on the brakes. Off the brakes about here. So you can see the braking zone is only on like my wingspan. So, 6, maybe 17.
Yeah, you're not necessarily braking to slow down on this turn or to rotate it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. So that's why it's important that you have these rumble strips right here. It's racetrack to use. Use all the racetrack. Also with the rumble strips, it helps use grip. Sometimes that's advantageous. Sometimes it's not as advantageous. Going to roller coaster, as Frankie said, helps you rotate a little bit into the turn, especially with it being a 90-degree first turn. A little bit of rotation helps kind of slide into it. Now, as we go into it, you might be able to see it is off cambered, kind of leaning out mid-turn bill is where the camber starts to shift the off camber and back on camber into turn. When that happens, there is a bump. If you are racing, you're on the throttle after a bump. You have no weight on your rear tires, weight is on your front tires. Give it throttle when there's not weight on your rear tires, it's just gonna make you spin. Really common thing with roller coasters being on throttle weight and spinning because of that. That's why pushing the braking zone does help a lot. It's easier to, and better in my opinion, to brake a little bit earlier and start pushing that into there so you can be on the gas a lot earlier.
Sorry. It also, if I may add, helps you set you up for the next turn. It makes it a lot easier for your exit as opposed to if you get on the gas late. If you do get on the gas late, like Raj was saying, you will spin out for the most part. That camber part can throw you pretty wide if you're going too quick. If you're going too slow and you have to hold on to your brakes, you're gonzo. That's pretty much it.
Right here, about where the camber changes. So I'm typically at least riding a bit of the throttle right here just to swap your rear end a little bit down. Right here is where you kind of have a decision on how you want to attack the roller coaster. You can let it sink deep and carry speed out of the first turn, but it compromises your entry to the second turn of the roller coaster. And especially when that thing has so much camber to it, you can afford to carry a little bit less speed into there because your fronts are already going to be so overworked already, and it's going to throw you out wide. Me personally, I like to hug the left side of the racetrack. You can see, might be able to see right here, there's a visible line where the two pieces of asphalt were laid down. Staying on the left side of this line will have you set up a lot better entry for the second turn. Also, because as we're going down through here, the track kind of dives away from you. And if you can stay high on the hill, you get such a boost going down it instead of going up, down, just scrub speed, scrub time, and doing all that.
You know, more speed going on that hill than you do losing speed if you're trying to correctly get closer to the curve here. Especially if you're trying to get closer to the inside, you'll pretty much lose speed. Like Raj was saying, you're coming in here, if you try to crank it overcorrect, it doesn't set you up for the next turn. Trying to aim for that hill is pretty advantageous because it sets you up for passes as well as setting you up for the correct position going into the double apex.
But you want to walk but passing doesn't really work that well on here as it is a chicane. If you're on the inside, you don't have too much front tire grip to rotate yourself that heavily to stay all there on the left side of the racetrack. And the other person can just take it a little bit slower and hug the second apex. As the second apex is on camber, you can always carry more speed into the camber turn than off of the turn. The track almost drives the part for you in a turn if it's cambered. Off the camber, it's so much harder to stay those front tires exactly what you want to do. That's a pretty steak hill right there. It's like a 7 fish. But it's enough to have some noticeable camber to it. Talking about really coaster because it has a lot of camber. You can just rally so much. And you can see if you're staying still kind of high on the left side of the track right here. You have such a straight idea out of here, going down the hill, getting a boost of speed, driving in a straight line, and carrying so much more speed through the entire movement of the track. So as you're going to see, the north end of the track is 98% full throttle. And the more speed you can carry right here is tenths of seconds through the rest of the track. That's bringing us to one of the really small things that make people lose a rather decent amount of time, which coming out of the roller coaster, you can kind of see how the track moves around that curve right there. If you were staying high right here, you can see a straight line, flips this curve, and then it goes straight over that curve. The more of a straight line you can drive in karting, the more speed you'll be able to carry and regenerate. As solid rear axle in the rear, I'll go over this a lot. Whenever you turn in a go-kart, the inside wheel and the outside wheel want to turn at different speeds, but they can't, so they end up scrubbing. So anytime you have any steering you put in, it slows you down. It's like braking. So if you can drive in a straight line, you just generate speed and you don't slow yourself down through the process.
Should we do this in clips or should we do it just like one whole?
Just do it one point.
All right.
But also, Ron, if you have anything to add, just don't add stuff for it. It's a conversation.
I don't know, dude. I just work here. I just show how I drive carts and I push them.
I mean, you're 79, so I mean,
Yeah.
you
One time with Cole.
It took you 20 sessions.
Yeah.
79. He's also 79. Too.
Last ones.
I 79 still 79.
Well, that thing's been flying around for like the last 4 sessions. I swear to God.
It goes pretty fine.
It's just been hovering around the track.
Yeah.
So, explain this a little bit more how you fuck this up. There's a few ways.
First of all, you can see all of these tire bars.
What
right
the
there,
fuck?
Kind of going into this barrier. I mean, you can see also right there how much barriers get rubbed. That is letting yourself sink too deep into the second apex, and your line from there just sends you straight into the barrier over here. If you actually want to come with the camera, kind of looking down to these tires, you can pretty well imagine the line thing, which is just really hugging the right side of the racetrack coming into the roller coaster. And it's just, yeah, you can see, right, when you go down, you're on the inside of the racetrack right there, and it just spits you out wide. Also, right, you turn it a little bit too early when you're hugging that right side. And so, early turn in means early exit, which means barrier time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if you're hugging the left side of the racetrack, then you are hugging, honestly, you're driving right here, far away from all that barrier stuff. You're driving straight over this curve right here. It is a curve that you want to hit. I'm not going to say you should hit this curve. I'm saying that if you come out of a roller coaster and you drive in a straight line, and this curve happens to be in your way, this is one of the very few turns that I advise you to hit.
I agree with that. If you don't hit it, you should hit it. It's not fun if you don't hit it.
In the time that I've seen instantaneously driving around this turn is worth about 0.3 seconds. The amount of speed you lose by hitting this turn is worth about half a second throughout the entire track, just because it's an extra kilometer an hour that you're slowing down for. So if you are not wanting to hit the bump or you want to drive around it, sure to be comfortable. But such a very small thing that's worth half a second in the long run, just for a quick little jolt to the wheel.
That's the thing about this track too. There's small stuff in between here and there that can cost you a few tenths to a few thousands, right?
As a quick. Also, that's what makes pushing this track really annoying. Because, right, if you say now, we don't drive through it, don't drive around it, but we drive through it. Now, that turn into the Lightbulb, we're carrying extra, like, what, half a mile an hour, extra 1-2 kilometers an hour. Now you're carrying extra speed there that you've never carried before. Now you gotta adapt to it. So, it takes time to learn this track. It takes a lot of time to get used to all of the little intricacies. That's why I say learn the easy turns first. We're going to point out, get used to them, and then start focusing a little bit on harder turns so that you can have your brain freed while you're in those turns to think about what you just did. One of those easy turns I'm going to talk about is this next turn coming up. It is a double apex turn. Pretty simple. Out of the roller coaster, when you commit to full throttle going into it, you just hold full throttle going into it, and it is, without question, in the wet, in the dry, full throttle. One of those turns that if you're scared to experience the G-force or you are curious to experience how much grip these turns can have, one of those turns you can easily take full throttle and start to get your confidence boosted up through there. There are some things that you can mess up on this turn because all the little bit of elevation changes. First thing that I want to point out is how cambered the first impact is. You may not be able to see it as we're walking, but it's like a 2-degree slope going down into it, so it helps you rally so much speed into it. allows you to turn it honestly a little bit early so you can use less of the racetrack.
You stand right here. You stand right there. You can tell that elevation a bit better. But yeah, it's just a slight lean this way. The lean goes to wheel and then big speed.
Yeah, it's right here. See some rubber right there. That's where you want to keep your front tire. Turn in a little bit later than that. Compromise the second apex. As long as you're apexing the first one right around here, it just sets you up in a slingshot. One big thing about the double apex is, although we call it double apex, 2 different turns, it really is just 1 turn with 2 apexes. Once you commit to your steering for this first apex, just hold the steering right there. You don't need to jostle it around. You don't need to full steer, let off, steer again. Because the more aggressive that you're steering, like we said earlier, the slower you're going to go because it's applying the brakes. So if you can just be nice, gentle, commit to that 1 steering motion, it rallies you through the turn. As we come out of this first apex, the camber is slowly starting to go back to a flat plane. I'm sure you can probably notice the car's going to run out a little bit wider because it doesn't have the banking of the track to help it hold inside of the turn. It's okay to let it happen. The main thing about these karts, karting in general, is it's not about driving the racing line. It's about pushing the kart to do a racing line, just letting it drive the line. But not too much to add of the double apex. You can let your kart run wide. My general rule of thumb is kind of can see where both different asphalt lanes lay down. Staying on this side of it, never letting yourself go more than halfway on the outside of the track. What you can do is less steering, but it's more racetrack. And racing kind of balance the two between more steering, more racetrack. In this case, it's better to hold more steering and use less racetrack, less distance, more speed.
Yep. We can pass on you from time to time. You definitely have to put it what this person is doing, right? You can't just full send it and expect to pass somebody coming out of the turn. Sometimes people will go left, sometimes people will go right. You can pass on this corner as well, double apex. It's a pretty nice corner to pass on. I've seen people pass on the outside here, but preferably, what Aiden was saying, staying on the inside will definitely set you up better out of the turn. And then once you're getting into the next turn over here, it gets a little bit tricky.
But this next turn up here, as tricky as it is the golden holy grail, I'd say. Holy grail of passing on this track. Because it is really easy just to shoot up the inside. You can use double apex as a way to pass. Me personally, I just like to swing it around the outside so I can have a better entry into the Lightbulb because it is a more guaranteed pass there. Yeah. Because walking into it, if it's your first time on the racetrack, Lightbulb, I would guarantee will be one of the hardest turns for you to get down. Just because you're going to see, as we're walking through it, it's very visually receptive. It goes down to the spot, and it might see the turn really early. But I also have a track set up. You're going to see, right, it's a little king, who's straight, who's even pretty straight. It's weird doing that. Right, because it's almost like 2 turns in one. You have that little straight in the middle.
You have to work with 2 apexes too.
Yeah. So, but to do it effectively, you just scrub the first turn a lot. You just kind of play it better. So you try to get the second turn right there as much speed as you can out of there.
The reason why this turn is called Lightbulb is because the structure of it. You're going in wide, it tightens, and it tightens coming out of the exit. So it's pretty much tight in the turn. Yeah. It's a little bit open in the middle. Middle you can get away with stuff here and there, but going into it, it's open, tightens, pretty much.
Yeah. Great idea. Hey, my Lightbulb, right? But coming out of the double apex, like I said, just hold the 1 steering motion. You don't want to try to overcompensate coming out of the turn out the inside, because you have the entire straight here. You have a lot of space to move over the outside of the turn. You don't need to do it all at once coming out of the turn. Hold your steering motion. Sometimes that throws you all the way to the outside. Sometimes, depending on where I hit my first apex, that throws me right about here. Hold that steering motion until naturally, once you start looking back around, let it happen. Let yourself naturally start to look back around. Let the cart do its own thing. The less you can micromanage the cart, or as we call racing, overdrive the cart, the more happy and responsive it's going to be. Coming into the Lightbulb, you can almost kind of already see the passing opportunity that we have. Really easy for people just to overcompensate and go wide. And really easy to shoot up the inside as they're going really far wide. Look into it. Because the inside has a lot more room and grip than what you really give it credit for because of that first little kick going into it. The thing I'd like to mention though is we went uphill for the double apex and now we're going back downhill. Actually, we're going uphill right now still. Ever so slightly. Yeah, I like very much prior to the apex is when it starts to compress and go downhill. Which also makes it weird. You want to know it's not driving? You can feel it driving though. The weight shifting from the front to the rear. Front to the rear, sorry. That's going down, so rear to front, front to rear, yeah. You notice it.
Slightly up here. We're starting to down slightly. You can feel it from time to time, but it helps. I would say personally, personal experience, it helps take your first legs and it just makes it work a little bit. You know, personal track. You say, you guys don't figure the car, let the car do its thing. Don't try to force it to do something, because if you try to force the car to do something, it's just going to spin you out most of the time for what I've seen.
Overdriving these cars is a really easy thing to do because it's really easy just to say this car's not doing exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this and it's doing this instead.
Also, don't be misinformed. These go-karts do not have ABS and they do not have power steering. None of that is applied to these carts. So don't treat it like a car. It's not the same exact thing. You have to look at it just slightly.
Yeah. I mean, you're walking the inside, I'll walk the outside. And you can already start to see that you have this run up this first kick. You have a straight line run to the apex. You can't have a braking zone before you even in the turn, so it helps you lock that rear just a little bit more. When you're turning, braking at the same time in these carts, you're gonna want to spin out right here. There's a little straight right here, so this right here is going up the inside. And right now, I'm still hugging the outside of my racing line. He's gonna be able to brake in a straight line and get to the apex and effectively slow himself down before I can even get to there. That's one of the many reasons why the Lightbulb is such a powerful tool for passing. Also, why I stress the roller coaster you see right there is one of the worst places to pass. Because if you're just a little bit more patient to make it through 2 more turns, you could end up in the Lightbulb, and the pass is almost guaranteed at that point. But going through the Lightbulb, you can see even right now, it's very inviting to turn right now and get your apex. Because it seems like the apex is right where the third blue is, or where the more white line is.
Yeah, more white from the.
As we actually walk the line, you're gonna see it 3 more lines into the turn. 3 more lines may not sound like a lot. This line is about 3 feet, so 9 feet later of an apex. If you're thinking like that, makes a huge difference. Right about here is where I'm letting off the gas. I'm looking at my apex, and I'm letting the cart start to rotate out on me until the front wheels point to my apex. once they're pointing to my apex, that's when I'm rolling back onto the throttle. So this turn, you can take it full throttle. I lift for a bit more consistency. I recommend you do the same until you can start to develop the feedback for it. But really helpfully, you have a black line that goes across the entire racetrack. This is about where the apex is for this turn. As you're standing right there, like I said, right here, looks about the apex. Where Frankie is standing is actually the apex. It's such an inviting turn to turn in too early for. Fight that feeling. Let yourself go a little bit wider. Let off the gas, hook it in. And honestly, with how much the track is gonna hammer up, you can basically drive in a straight line and make it out this time.
To add on to what Raj is saying, this is a very deceptive corner. You do have to take a little bit of a late apex because, from my experience, coming in early right here, right, this will only just put you wider on the track and people can pass on the inside. It won't set you up that well for the next turn either because you're already losing that grip and speed coming out of the turn.
Yeah. Which also, right here, right about here, is where we start going from an uphill to a downhill to a turn. And it's just a little bump going downhill right at the apex. But right about here, from this point to about this point, you have a little bit more front grip because now you're going downhill. And so you can afford to turn a little bit later, and then the track just hooks you up for the apex and fits you out wide. Also, why turning in right about here, now you have so much steering authority, and as soon as you're done turning, you need all that steering authority going out of the turn when you need it the most, and that's just what sets you wide. That's because you start also going uphill, weight comes off the front, onto the rear. And you're kind of calling roads.
This whole area right here is actually where the transition stops and ends. So coming through here, it goes from a downhill to an uphill after this crack right here. Pretty nice to aim for that point. Like Raj said, you lift. We have a little more play in the steering. It won't slide out as much. But again, if you're flipping it or trying to get back on it real quick, that'll help as well.
Yeah. But all this being said, slow speed is fast racing. Slowly get back onto the throttle and let it kind of drive you into the turn. If you just mash back onto the throttle, it's just gonna make it skid out a lot more. But at your apex, you're gonna feel there's a dip right here between the asphalt and the curb. You really feel that with your front tire if you just hook into that. It's a good tactile response to say that you can get your apex. Some people like to rub up onto this curb. You can see all the tire marks here. Some people like to hook over the curb. I find that it makes the cart more unstable. I'm not going to say that it loses you time, maybe a 10 at the max. It is a lot more consistent to stay off the curb and hit your apex.
I feel like hitting the curb for the most part will sometimes lose you time because it doesn't help when you're coming out of there. Even with some of the curbs like roller coaster and whatnot, if you hit the curb, it's gonna already make the car unstable. It's not gonna want to do what you want to do coming out of the turn, and either you slide or you just have a slower exit coming out of the turn.
Exactly. The rule of thumb for curbs: if you're driving in a straight line, you're good to hit them. If your weight's on your rear tires, like you're heavily accelerating, or like a roller coaster, you're cresting up that hill, weight's really on your rear tires, then your fronts aren't gonna be too angry when they get weighted up. But right here, you're going downhill, a lot of weight on your front tires, and now you throw them over a curb and they get all agitated. That's how they lose grip, and that's how you get inconsistency in your turn. You can see the wasteland that is produced from carts going off track. If you do go off track here, it is so common. It's almost comical.
It's the same trap and a half if you do go wide off of this turn. It's kind of a pain to get back on if you get, especially on this area too. That's why we're trying to be extra, informative about this turn, letting y'all know where the points are, because if you do mess up, you end up right down here. And this is a little bit tricky because this is a transition point from the dirt to the asphalt itself. So sometimes people get their bumpers stuck, or they'll get the frame stuck on there. Regardless, you get stuck, we have to help you. it's a pain on both fronts.
But if you go out here, I've gone off this turn a dozen times, probably until I got it down. It's part of the learning process. But every time you go through this turn, start trying to get to that apex. I mean, if you're from here, honestly, Ron, if you want to come over here and look up to the apex, you can visually see if you want to turn backwards and look to turn. You can almost see the glistening where the apex is between the curve change from the curve and the asphalt. You can almost see where they both dip together. That's right about at that solid line, a little bit after that, obviously. Coming from this angle, you can see that's a pretty good apex to come out of the turn.
It's like right there.
It's like, yeah, you can see it, right? You can see the difference in like the texture of the asphalt. Yeah, that's where people have ridden so many times, just want it down the way.
Is it that one blue right there?
Yeah, right there. Right. You see the line of that?
Yeah, the blue right after the white
Yeah,
line.
you can see
Or
that,
the black, yeah.
And it also looks like impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because the next turn is where the Lorax lives.
Top of the world?
Yes, sir.
Top of the world is when you get good at racing up here, top of the world is where you lose your lap time. Our most experienced drivers, me included, will lose tenths, almost half a second. New people lose almost 2 seconds in this one turn. Because the entry to it has so many little elevation changes, it's hard to effectively adapt to it. Coming out of the roller coaster, kind of like double apex, you want to have your steering somewhat in there, let it run wide. You don't want to hit the rumble strips. If you can hit the rumble strips, it's a good thing. It means you turned in early enough. If you're not hitting the rumble strips, you're turning in a bit too late. Back it off a little bit, like an inch or two next time you come around. You're going to be riding up right next to these rumble strips. And you still want to have some steering in. You don't want to go fully straight up on the steering. And you want to slowly start bringing yourself from right here to the entry to the turn. You want to slowly bring yourself to the outside of the racetrack. So as you're walking through, right, a little bit of steering motion to just slowly start to transition the cart's weight from the right side, start transitioning it to the left side. The more you can get the tires loaded up and the frame loaded up going into top of the world, the more sharp the cart will be able to turn, which is really important when there's like 5 different elevation changes that happens in the turn. The earlier that you get the cart snapped into the turn, the better. I'm not saying the earlier you turn it, the better. The earlier that you get the cart ready to turn it, the better. But you might be able to start seeing if there's one dot on the outside of the racetrack, that is your turn-in point. So by the time you get to that turn-in point, your cart's weight should be fully on the left side, and you should honestly have a little bit of steering motion in there. So, coming up, honestly, right here, this is where I start my turn-in. But I'm at like 1% steering maybe. Not to like get the cart started turned in, but just get weight on the outside. As we're walking in, it is really tempting to say, ooh, here's a turn. I'm going to turn in now. This turn in top of the world should not be considered a turn. It should just be considered a really weird entry into the turn. So really that's what it is. And when you forget about this part of top of the world, it turns into just a glorified double apex. Which is, like I said, a weirder entry. That's why we have the white dot painted on the racetrack, because it helps you stay really far wide. So it's really weird driving across the entire racetrack for the turn-in. You almost want to just drive into the turn right now. But as we go into top of the world, you'll see why turning right now is a mistake. Where Frankie is standing is the white dot. That's your turning point. Use that as like a base reference. Me, I use it as my rear tire clips that when I turn in, maybe like a second after it goes. Top of the world is one of those turns that adapts day to day on how much grip it has. So I use the white dot as like a general, here's where I need to turn in. But every time, shift it a little bit to where it is on the turn. It's not when you cross it, it's not when your front tire crosses it, it changes. rumble strips going in are not advisable to hit. As we said, going to the roller coaster, the rumble strips will make you lose grip. If you clip your rear tire onto them, you end up oversteering and drifting fully into the turn. And the more you slide in the drive, the slower you're going to go. Especially top of the world, where this is such an important turn to carry speed. Because as you look out through there, it's it seems like a weird curvy exit, but for the most part, it's a straight line. 2 straight lines. Do a really decent straight. Why every bit of speed you can carry out on top of the world is so important. But you're not on the rumble strips, but you're not leaving a gap between you and the rumble strips. Your tires should be almost right there.
That's good, Charles. Imagine this rumble strip as like a boundary line. You want to get on as close as possible, but you don't want to actually get on the line itself. Right?
Exactly. You want to use all the racetrack that you physically can.
Yeah.
Once we're at this point right here, you can see that this turn is just a weird double apex. That's all it is. So, hit it like a double apex. However, unlike the first double apex, you really want to prioritize hitting the second one, not both of them. If you turn in too early, really hit that first apex and you're able to carry a lot of speed into the turn. But mid-turn, you can see right here that it sharpens up at the exit, and you really have to oversteer the car in order to make the second apex. If you just let it naturally hit the second apex and be very meh with the first apex, you might lose a bit of speed going into the turn, turning pretty sharply to get that second apex. But you'll get a much straighter exit out of top of the world, and like we said before, the straighter you'll be able to go because you're not braking. That being said, don't completely forget about the first apex. If you can get the cart fully weighted up on the left side by the time you hit that dot, you can normally hit both apexes. If you're at that dot saying, oh, I need to turn in now, leave about half a go-kart width between you and the first apex. So, this, if Lightbulb is your bread for passing, top of the world is your butter. Like we said on the entry to Lightbulb, you have a turn to a straight to the actual turn. And what do we have right here? A turn to a little bit of a straight to the actual turn. Hooking it up the inside, you're able to brake and hook around this first apex. Like I said, hooking the first apex is a little bit slower, but you're able to carry so much more entry speed that you're almost guaranteed to make the pass.
From experience from seeing the league races, that definitely is a viable option.
Yeah.
Moto league racers attempt to make a pass specifically where you're seeing the 2 curves and jump inside. They'll come in here, and then it kind of blocks them coming into the turn, so they won't be able to make a clean pass.
Also, coming into the Lightbulb, if you're on the inside of Lightbulb, coming out of the turn, you'll do a switchback, and you'll be on the outside of Lightbulb, go into the inside of top of the world. So you have 2 insides, and at that point, even if they try to carry the fight, they can't carry all the way to the top of the world, and you just get the pass button. Really important though, if you hit this first apex, if you prioritize this first apex, you're not attempting to hit the second apex. Instead, go on the other side of the racetrack and try to hit that curve over there. It allows you to try to straighten out the wheel a little bit sooner and carry a little bit more speed. Yes, it is more racetrack, however, it's significantly less turning, so therefore you'll be able to carry a lot more speed. Right here, you can see this first, you might be able to see right now. I'm gonna go down here. There's a lot of amber in this first turn right here. I mean, there's what, almost like 20% so a lot of my tires are not so but I right back here, you keep ahead. You're still in the middle of the turn. And if you hit this first apex, right, you have a lot of camber, a lot of front grip in order to do that. You have lost all of your grip right here. So then you start drifting that wide. drifting out wider, drifting out wider. And that's why at this point, you really gotta uphill to get to that second apex. That's why I say, to avoid that second apex, let it run wide, keep the apex into the curves on the other side of the racetrack. Or my ideal racing line, like I said, let it run wide. Once you're about right here, you can almost see. You can drive pretty much in a straight line, and then straight line hugs you over this curve. Takes you over the curve right here, the straight line does, and it gets you straight to the first curve of the bus stop. Versus, if you hit that first apex, straight line, turn right about. It's like 10 extra feet of racetrack that you're taking up in order to drive straight for. And I've noticed it time and time again with some of our best races. In fact, our best races, I was able to catch up to it because he was not prioritizing that second apex. He was not prioritizing the straight exit out of the top. And then you start gaining these opportunities. You may lose a bit of speed going into it, but the amount of speed you gain after it is night and day. Track starts to camber up again, going out of the turn. Also, it starts to go downhill. When that camber changed up there, once it's going uphill, it's going right back downhill. And as we're going more downhill, right, you have a lot more front tire grip. So going into the bus stop is just basically one dip in the track. This is another one of those turns that if it's your first time on the racetrack, I recommend you go full throttle through this one turn. It's one of the easier turns. It's very much a non-event turn. Once again, because it dips, you have so much front tire grip going through it, it's really hard to drive a bad line through it. Really easy to carry a lot of speed, really easy to get the confidence up for how much grip these cars can handle in a turn. If it's your first time out here, if you can get double apex down, if you can get this down, you can really start to think in the middle of this turn. Retroactively think back to the top of the world and think, what did I do wrong? What can I do better next lap? A fast lap never happens on your first lap. A fast lap happens after 5 or 6 laps because it takes all that time to start to do little micro changes, even for you, probably, even on. None of us get our fastest lap on our first lap, or third lap, or fourth lap.
At the end of the day, it takes us a few laps to also protect mistakes.
Exactly.
You're a first timer coming out here. My personal advice: don't beat yourself up when you're first coming out. Definitely just try to soak in as much information as possible, and then use that for the next time you go out.
Exactly.
It's easy like that.
It's just piecewise and together, one turn after the next, after the next. I mean, for me, when I go out, I don't know about the rest of you guys. It would probably be the same for you guys, right? I do a turn, I do Lightbulb, I do top of the world, and then I do it slightly differently. I slightly tweak it every time until it feels just right. And then that's when I can lock in a fast lap. But it takes a while before I can make the little mistakes that I need to figure out the grip levels in order to just lock in that turn.
Oh, and if I may mention, your fast lap will not feel like a fast lap. Sometimes you question it, sometimes it feels like it, but if it doesn't feel like a fast lap, it might be. So don't beat yourself up if it feels like you're going slow.
And vice versa too. If you feel like you're going fast, that's probably because you're going slow enough to have enough grip to make the turn, so you feel like you're going fast. So if you feel like you're going fast, you're going slow. If you feel like you're going slow, you're going fast.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Opposite. Yeah.
The bus stop. Some people book this first curve. It is a curve you can't poke. This is the curve I was talking about. If you hit the first apex and top of the world, this is your aim point out of there because it's a very straight line from where you're at, so you have a understeer out to. Quite rarely though, you come over here and look back at top of the world, you can see the second apex, and then you can kind of see there's a straight line that comes out of the apex. That is where you want to get yourself set up, as straight of a line as you can out of there. You can see it.
Yeah.
And you can also see how that misses the first apex by just a little bit to get the race.
Yeah. The goal is not to get wide close to the dirt. You definitely want to stay somewhere around the middle and make the initial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Letting yourself float wide, using way too much racetrack, and then you're also committed to way too much steering. We go through the bus stop. But you hug yourself on the inside, and as you're walking back, you're walking uphill, so there is camber here. and this camera really comes in effect right here. This is one of the other turns that has a curve, and because now, as we're going up here, we're going uphill. As we're going uphill, not a lot of weight on the front end. Also, you can see right here, you want to drive in a straight line all the way to the front straight. It's
basically a chicane.
you come out of the top of the road, it's a straight line until right here. Then it's a straight line that way, and then it's a straight line down the straight. It's 3 little straights that look like a weird turn.
Definitely don't feel afraid of a turn right here. I've done it. I've seen the racers do it.
It's the fastest. It's one of the beautiful.
You might have done it.
They might have done it. Look at this, it allows you to have a lot tighter of a line out of here, also a lot more straighter of a line out of here. It doesn't, I mean, the curve doesn't seem that much, it's less aggressive. You realize also once again you're going up this, so it's not a lot of weight on the front tires to be dismantled. As we walk through here, we start looking at the straight 57. We leave the world of the turns and go to a weird number. Why do we have our turns numbered?
Because, well, one, the way they were numbered, that was the original direction. So the standard reverse direction that most of the customers go, that's actually reverse for the original track. It starts typically over there for the forwards direction. It actually starts where we started walking from. So roller coaster would be the final turn. This turn, however, is set up as a bus stop because it transitions into the south end for the reverse line. And those are all the numbered turns. So these are the named turns, other sides.
Yeah, like I said, this is the track we're going to reverse what it's made for. That's why you're going to see, we're going to count back to turn 1. We're not going to count up to turn 7. That way.
Yeah.
But if you are here for any of our enduro races, if you're for some of our league races, then
It's also helpful to know which turns
Yeah.
are named too. Because if we have like 14 turns on here, we're describing them as numbers. It gets to be a pain in the ass after number 10, right?
Yeah.
So,
But on that note, I mean, if you guys want to see you guys walk the forwards line, talk about that because it does have its differences. Leave a comment.
it's a lot more flowy for sure. It's
Yeah.
definitely a lot more flowy than it is reverse. You get a lot more flow. It's the weight transfer.
Yeah. But once we leave that, we leave arguably one of the hardest parts of the racetrack, which is roller coaster, Lightbulb, top of the world. Those, in my opinion, are the 3 turns that lose you the most amount of speed. Roller coaster, top of the world. These next 2 S turns, they can still lose you a decent chunk of speed. There's one really common mistake that you can make in the upcoming S turn that loses you a second in. But it's really pretty easy to avoid, and we're going to go over wheels with it. Over through here, you can see that driving in a straight line, you go about right here, and it's really easy just to drive right back in a straight line, right here. You visit straight.
Yeah.
I'll say, as we come through here, we turn back around, we see how bus stop, the last turn of bus stop, as much as it is a straight line, it is still a turn. It is a turn that pitches. I'm gonna go over here and show the fine folks backwards how much the track really does pitch. It's kind of, like I said, roller coaster, top of the world is one of those places where you can go side by side into and make an easy pass. If somebody's good enough, they'll bring the battle all the way to turns up. That going through that pitch right there. The amount of times that I've had to go off track right there or do something just because the racing line doesn't leave much room for error. I've seen some of our spec go-karters, they got interlocked together because they've just gone side by side, on top of each other. Pretty sure you can still see the tire mark right here of them just sliding off track together.
It's a big rock. You want to kick that rock off track? Right over there. So.
No, I thought they're off number 1. Yes, sir. So, going into, this is turn 7, up there is turn 6. We gain quite a bit of elevation. I think it's like gain Gain a lot.
Sorry, it's fun on this street.
Oh, well, let's get it nailed.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
But it's also one of those turns that is really tricky to begin. Right about here is when I'm letting off the gas. Some people like to go off their open strips, some people like to hit the brakes. Anything to get the rear end slightly kicked out. I said in top of the world, you don't want to drift that much. With how tight this turn is, the only really way to go through it is to slightly start rotating through it.
You're gonna have a great time. Yeah.
The turn is called neutral steer. You go through a turn, drifting and steering wheel staying perfectly straight, but the car rotating around. You're just purely driving off the throttle. Driving by your pedals might also be here. And what does that mean? When you're sliding, when you go onto the throttle, you should weight onto your rear. So the more weight you shift onto your rear, the straighter the car will track. So while you're sliding, as you're pulling on the throttle, this makes the car drive a lot more straight. Off the throttle means it drifts more. On the throttle means it straightens up more. That's how driving by your pedals mean. As we go through here, it is really important that you stay to the right-hand side of the racetrack coming out of this turn.
Do not, I can't stress this enough. Do not try to aim out here. I've seen so many people go off right there, as well as get a tire hooked here, they slide out and they'll bump into the person going on the inside sometimes. You want to stay on that right, because if you don't stay on that right, it absolutely does not set you up getting out of this turn. And you'll see why in a second.
Also, you don't have to slide, you have to rotate the cart so much bigger to have that entry into turn 6.
You kind of have to, if you go wide like this, you're basically taking it like that, which is not how this turn functions.
No. Well, hug this curve. By right about here-ish is when I'm rolling onto the throttle. And it takes continue some more, and continue some more. Right about here to get back on the full throttle. That's like 20 feet of me going from like this to this. And while you're racing, it takes about half a second to go this distance to roll onto the throttle. But the smoother you can be on the throttle, the more speed you can carry. Now, turn 6 is really where all the elevation of magic happens. And you can see right here, it goes uphill and it gets really, really banked at the apex. As we've seen from previous parts of this track, when the track is banked, it almost drives the cart through the turn for you. You don't need to steer. The track just steers you. When you come out of the turn, I'd say leave about half a width between you and the rumble strip. You can use all of the rumble strip. I find that you are having to narrow your line so much out of the exit that it's easy just to let it run wide just a little bit. The one place you do not want to be is right here. Going data right here for an extra, I think, 3 miles an hour faster than hugging that inside line. However, I mean, just 3 kilometers an hour faster right here. But at the end of the straight, going into the next set of S turns, it will be 10 kilometers an hour slow. Yeah. Why is that? Like I said, if you're all the way up here, you need to use the banking of the track and let the track turn for you. If you're down here, you have to turn the cart. Honestly, the banking works against you. It's trying to throw you really far wide because all of your steering happens when you're in the turn. That's when you have the grip to do it. Once you start to leave the turn, you still have the worst steering to do. And you don't have the banking to do it. And so even though you're able to carry speed and turning right here, at the exit of the turn, because that's true. You don't have the track to do that. Stay wide. Honestly, at this point, this is a straightaway right here. You may think, oh, there's a turn right here. But like I said, either you turn the turn or the track turns the turn for you. Either way, you're not really turning the wheel. You're just negotiating for the apex. Move yourself around the apex. End up right there. right about here is where the camber ends. When it starts to get to the flat, if you are all the way on the inside going into the turn, right here you still are pointing. You'd still be pointing that way. You still have more steering to do. However, you don't have the track to steer for you now. And so you really have to either overload the front tires or, as you can see behind Frankie, go off track. Many people have done that.
Don't do it.
No one mistake though, so slower to do it. But as you can see, as I'm staying to the outside of the track, right, the straightaway started way back there. If you hug the inside going to the turn, right here you're still turning. And the straightaway doesn't start until right about there. I mean, that is about 50 feet of track in straightaway that you're not gaining and accelerating on.
And if I may add, this turn will absolutely punish you if you do not take the line that Roger was just talking about. If you go right here, you're basically jumping the car onto the curb.
Yeah,
And it doesn't feel good.
No.
It does not feel good.
No, it does not.
Best course of action, definitely get close to the curb. You don't want to get on the curb, if that makes sense.
But as we go down the straight now, we're accelerating. At the end of the straight, the guy that was on the all the way hugging the outside of the turn, going into it, that was able to turn it a lot sooner, will be 10 to 12 kilometers an hour faster than the guy who let it run wide out of the turn instead of letting it cut to the inside. I think I contradict myself a few times there, but now, coming up here, turn 5, 4 is the second set of S turns we have up here. Arguably, I will say these two turns are harder to get down than those two turns, even though those two turns require neutral steering, they require good line planning. This one, it just has a sneaky hill that is really hard to work around because it crests at the apex. You might be able to kind of start to see it from here. How right now we're going uphill, and through the turn, it's going downhill in turn 4.
Definitely use this as a marker. This is a big marking point, especially for getting off the throttle, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be coming into the turn full throttle because, like he said, this hill will send you wide and then you're off into the dirt. So use the start of this as a breaking point or necessarily a lift line.
Yeah.
Like to say. And it will makes it easier.
There's a couple really good lifting points depending on your weight and your driving style. We got a couple good lines of new asphalt here. Like Frankie said, the first bit of the white curve right there is a good place to start lifting off from. You can push the turn a lot more than what you realize. I like to push this turn more deep in. Some people like to turn it a lot earlier, the tires around the curve. It's a thing you can do. I don't find it to be as consistent as it is just to work around the hill. Now, what do I mean by working around the hill? Frankie, what happens if you're on throttle before the hill crest?
You are on throttle right off. There's no way of stopping yourself. It's gotta just go down slow.
Yeah. You have weight on your rear tires, not off your front tires, and now when you're on throttle, you're squatting your rear even more, so you're taking weight off your front tires. So they don't have any physical weight of grip.
Let's step right here. You can see how much of a bit of a drop there is coming off of it. Like it can throw you off for the first few times, but as long as you know, right, try not to go super wide into the turn.
Yeah.
You should be just fine.
But right at that first bit of the white curve, you're off the throttles. And it takes all of the way. Hill crest right here, about where this piece of asphalt line is. You're on throttle about right here. You basically get through the entire turn before you're even thinking about rolling onto the throttle. If you do that, when you go downhill, you have a lot of weight starts to shift to your front tires, and it's able to bite and hook you through the rest of the turn. This allows you to see those rumble strips right there. You can drive in a straight line almost with those rumble strips. But if you're on throttle before then, yes, you'll be going a little bit faster going into there, but you won't have the front tires in order to hook around and get to that curve right there. So, in the extreme circumstances, it'll run you really far wide and run you off track. In the normal circumstances, it just doesn't allow you to run the racing line. Yeah. And the racing line here is really important because, as you can see, there's a straightaway right there. We want to take as much speed into the straightaway as we physically can. That means being all the way on the outside of the racetrack going into the turn. Like I said, if you're on throttle before then, you just can't physically get over here fast enough before you're into the turn. Turn 5 here is another place that you can pass. I've passed here. It's really relying on the person to make, once again, that mistake that you talked about in turn 7 and 6, where they are really slow out of the turn. Then you can sneak around on the inside of them, and you have the more time accelerating to get into here, so that you can just make the apex and hold the turn. Doing that runs you wide a little bit, and it screws your back straight up. But it's the fast babe. It's not the best turn to pass on, not the worst. Very circumstantial.
Be smart about it.
Yeah, I'd say
Don't be rash about it. If you're rash and you're too aggressive with it, you might risk running the dude off the track, right?
Out of 10, it's like a 4 out of 10 pass here. It's not the worst, not the best. Turn 7, honestly, might be a little bit better to pass on. I still say don't pass on turn 7. You can shoot up the inside and break on, get on the inside and hold the racing line, but it's so sketchful that you make the person go around the outside and fighting that battle all the way through there. And more times than not, you just lose the battle down the straightaway. These S turns is better just to stay in a single file line and get the draft. Lightbulb on top of the world are the easiest places to pass on. You can pass in other turns. We'll go into the rest of those as we go through there. Right here, about the turning point for turn 4. You can hook the curb on the inside. I don't like to. I use the same reference point as I do for Lightbulb. There's a dip between the curb and the asphalt. My front tire hooks into that, and that is my apex point. For these rumble strips, if they're sounding for like a second going onto them, that's about my indication to turn in.
And just like Ron was just mentioning, you definitely can't take the inside line. It's one of the few curves in this track that has those on the inside. So you're not going to be hitting a dirt patch or anything or sliding out.
Yeah.
But, right, it really comes down to your positioning.
Yeah. I want you to try to notice though how off-cambered this turn is, especially now thinking about the track running in the forwards direction. So we're not talking too much about it. But if we were running this way in the track, this is now a really heavy braking zone, and it's very off-cambered. And you wonder why we don't run our braking sessions going in this direction. It's because of this turn right here. You can see on the exit, there is a pond that only lives right there. If you screw up that turn, the blasting your barrier, there's normally a little more over here, so we actually have protection. But if you mess it up, you're going in the pond in the winter time, and you're not having a good time.
And it has happened.
It has happened.
There have been people that have flown off into that pond. Way too fast.
It's not fun to take them out of it. It's not.
I wouldn't want to take a dive right now.
All the way on the outside of the racetrack, that happens if you're on throttle racing. Great, back. It's a fairly standard turn, outside, inside, outside. As you draw the turn in your head, outside, inside, all the way on the rumble strips on the outside. More times than not, you don't want to hit the rumble strips. I do it because it's extra racetrack for me to pick up. It's precision. The rumble strips, their primary use is your margin for error. It gives you a little saying that, hey, you're near the edge of the racetrack and you have a turn. If you're good enough at placing the cart, you can use that margin for error as more racetrack. However, at that point, then you lose your margin for error. So if you make an error after that. Yeah. One of the common mistakes I see once again, is being on throttle late in 5, so you can't get over fast enough into 4. Then you turn into early or 2 compromise, and then you can see all of the fun party lines that have come out of here because people have just turned in too early or just on throttle too late. I've done it. You've done it. Well, I don't think you've done it yet.
Have I done it? I don't think so.
No, I
More
don't
on
think
3.
I've ever seen one get up pointed or an open. I got an open sign.
I got an open going off too, but that's in the wet. As you see, going off track is part of the learning process. Not advice that you should do it, just if you do it, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, take it from us, dude. You only get better by just practice. You beat yourself up over it every time. It doesn't become as fun. Enjoy it while you can. So don't get pressed over it.
Yeah.
Not a big deal if you mess up here and there. You just want to drive. So practice makes perfect, right?
Yep. Coming out of here, you can see all of the little brake bumps you have in the dirt because people just go off and then bump up. So it's if you want a free chiropractic adjustment, go off track here, and it'll definitely warp your back into A shape.
Yep.
Not the shape of a bag, but A shape.
You might get scoliosis pretty early if you go off here.
Yeah.
So
Careful.
right.
But going on to the back straight, you start to see turn 3, which is a really real hairpin on this track. It's not even that much of a hairpin.
It's a U-turn more than a hairpin.
It's a big U-turn. It's not that like inch of a hairpin. It is by definition a hairpin though. Coming out of 4, if you have a better exit than most people, then you can set up going side by side instead of getting into the braking zone. Turn 3 is a place that you can really push the brakes. Turn 3 is also one of the places that you can do brakeless, or primarily roller coaster, and then the front straight, turn 3, and then the back straight are your big braking zones. Say braking zones, in quotations though, because
50-50 off. You don't have
pretty optional. You can send it without the brakes. I like having the brakes just to get weight shifted to my front end so I have more bite going into the turn. But depends on your driving style. Depends how much you weigh. Weight in these two turns makes a lot of difference.
First timers, I'd probably recommend not going full throttle on turn 3. I've seen multiple times people hit the apex either really early or just super late. They don't have enough turn angle coming out and they smack into the exit of the barrier out there.
Yeah, it's really common to have very narrow eyes, especially in 3. What I mean by narrow eyes is when you're driving, I mean, if I'm from your point of view, I'm looking, maybe not a good reference, but very common when you're driving, your eyes are looking basically to where I'm at and only to here. Start working your eyes up. When I'm right here, I'm looking at the rumble strips. If not, I'm looking at the apex. Dog with clothes. They don't realize it's back. But
Oh my god, there's a hot air balloon right over there
oh yeah.
between the trees.
Oh yeah.
In our next video, we'll be racing them.
I wish.
Racing with fire.
I'll get some differences in mine. We'll run this. We'll run this.
I got you.
Coming up right here, we're starting to get near the turn. Right over there, fire extinguisher over there. That's the indication for where you should start braking. And every lap after that, push it a little bit more until you can't hold your racing line. As you can see, this lines up about right here.
If you look at the little mark where the rock is standing, you can actually see it. Basically, this tar mark right here is essentially the brake. The start of that tar mark.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I'm not using that. But tar mark, yes, I was thinking asphalt is hard. But every lap, push it a little bit. But as you can see, it's like a third of the way down the rumble strips. Don't be braking at the start of the rumble strips. Start honestly, you can if you're a bit nervous at first, but keep pushing it. Keep pushing it.
Get about a quarter down. I'd say like a quarter. Yeah. Push it from there. See how close you can get. Rumble's a good indicator, kind of like
I feel like.
body weight, right? So braking, right? Just keep in mind. I like to use markers. I'm sure you use markers from time to time.
Yeah.
But whenever you can visualize on the track or something you can focus on the track to kind of help you with your braking point. It doesn't have to be that tar mark. You can definitely use something like a kink in the road. There's kinks in the road all over. There's also like the white dot that's up on top of the world. There's a bunch of different markers you can use and utilize to help visualize where you need to go.
As you're going through this video, you can kind of pick out your own turn points. So that we're saying, turn right here. What's right about here? And then come in here in real life and see, okay, there's that thing I saw in that video. Let's try it out now. For me personally, turn 3 is really hard to explain because I use my peripheral vision to indicate my turn in. What I mean by that is looking through here, when the turn takes up like half to 75% of my vision, that's when I'm close enough to start wanting to turn in. So it's really important to keep your eyes up because as you start using the markers are really good for pushing the lap until you start to just get on field is just peripheral vision. Which peripheral vision is such an important thing about racing, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. Right about where you're standing is where I'm turning into the turn. I prefer this turn to be a late apex. 98% of people will say it's a middle apex. I'm weird, I like to slide.
I'll say you can get away with a late or even a mid apex.
Yeah.
It's kind of like wherever you prefer.
Never early. You can early apex if you're trying to pass. Not advisable when you're trying to push lap time.
Like we covered before, you try to come in the inside, you're just going to go wide at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it just opens it up for the person behind you to go on the inside.
So for me, on the brakes, a little bit of a jab on the brakes and some rotation using the cart. Probably a little bit slow, but what do I mean by early, mid, and late apex? We've already gone over that. It's a double apex turns. And this turn, it's really easy to point out. Right here, if you're looking narrowly into the turn, is the first bit of the turn you will look at, and this is where you want to apex. Your apex here, the racing line throws you straight into the barriers. You're going so much quicker your tires have, and you want out of it coming out of the turn. Right here, it's about the central apex. There's equal amount of distance there. There's about right here. This turn kinks more at the end. I like the apex. Right about where this line of car is a little cracked. A little bit later apex. Helps me have a lot straighter of an exit out of the turn, a lot faster, but it just requires it to start to rotate a little bit more. This apex, are the things that you should be looking for. Don't be really focused too much on the apex, and more about look at the apex. When you're turning in, when you're here, you're looking at the exit, start planning how you're going to flow out of the turn.
This right here is dead man's land. Would be the spot you would not want to end up, especially if you're coming out of that apex. You come out right here, you're not only losing time, but you also can potentially get the tire on. It's exactly the same as going into turn 5 and 4 over there. If you saw that little curve of the hill we were talking about, same deal. You got a little bit of a hill here. It kind of goes a bit down, and you can either get your frame stuck or you lose a bunch of speed going wide because the dust collects all over here. You start sliding, and then you either end up here or next to the barrier.
But as you can see, the race line is what I'm walking right now. And it has us coming on the rumble strip, quarter of the way down into it. If you're looking at the rumble strip, if you're in the rumble strip right now, you turned it a little bit too early. You still probably have some more turning to do, which is going to throw you off track. The racing line, as you hit the rumble strip, meet it right about here. Really important too, out of this turn, this rumble strip. It's more racetrack. It's common that you're going slow enough that you can turn a little bit sooner, but the more sharp you turn, the slower you go because the more brakes you're applying. Let yourself run wide, let yourself run into these double strips. It's more racetrack, but we're balancing this too, right? Between more racetrack and more speed. Okay, we're coming up here for our last two turns. I want to talk a little bit more about vision, like I was talking about earlier. Peripheral vision is very important to get comfortable in racing. Letting the world of your go-kart, your tires, live below your vision line. Letting all of this outside world live in your vision line, or out of your vision line. Be focused up ahead, be looking far. When I'm right here, I'm looking almost at that first apex. I'm looking all the way down the racetrack. And I'm letting my kart, my tires, my wheel exist below my line of vision. I'm still singing to my peripheral vision. I can see my hands right now, but I'm not focused right here. My focus is up here. It's weird to say, it's weird to articulate. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Pretty much.
Yeah. They'll probably get what I'm saying too.
Alright,
Part 2.
part 2.
We
Part
back.
2. We're back. Our camera died.
Part 2.
Yes, sir.
Your job is, what is this?
That's right.
Coming into turn 2. Turn 2 is a very common place to make mistakes. The two turns that I say to focus on your first time out here for working on critically is turn 2 and the Lightbulb, which we went over way long ago. Turn 2, it's the turn right before the front straight turn. As you saw with turn 5, as you saw with turn 7, these turns before straight turns are so important to set up that turn. Turn 2, what that means is a double apex turn. Once again, missing the first apex by a kart width, maybe even a little bit more than a go-kart width, depending on your that day. So you're staying really far wide, hugging the outside of the racetrack. Natural instincts will tell you I need to start turning in soon. Start turning in soon. Honestly, where there's triangles, these are turning point. Turn 2 is weird. You don't want to lift at the start of the turn because of how much elevation it has. It goes up, down, bit drastically. But going up right now, if you lift, you're just making more weight off your front tires and onto your rear, so you're understeering more. But that hill crest right about here, so this is where you're starting to let off. And let the kart kind of get a little more spotted in the rear so that it can hook up a lot more. Drop throttle as you're turning. As you can see, you're missing racing line by a go-kart width. When we say off throttle, don't mean fully off throttle, right? Half throttle. A little bit off throttle. Enough to slow you down, but it's not enough to like fully shift your weight forward and off the rear
Like
tire.
you want your ribs to still be doing it.
Exactly.
You don't want it to fully start filling the ribs.
You're just doing it to help the car rotate and walk into the turn.
That's why gas and pedal controller is pretty big when it comes to this track too.
Yeah. This track is a very hard track to get down because of all the adaptability that you need. But I'll strengthenly say that if you want to get good at karting and racing in general, this track has everything you need to get good. Because it has everything you need to learn how to be adaptable. Also, we're open in the sweater. And racing in the rain, if you want to get adaptable.
Snowing. We're opening the snow too.
Unless it's ice. Unless the track's ice on it.
The
But-
track's ice don't hurt. Yeah, but if we have snow,
If there's
we're
any,
open.
if there's a morsel strip to be available, we're gonna be open.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now we come up to one of the last curb sides that you can comfortably hit, which is the second apex curb. through it, you just hook your front tire, naturally have it roll over it, hook to the inside, helps you rally through the turn. Anything you can do to stay all the way to the left-hand side of the racetrack, driver's left, going into turn 1. Which turn 1 is very weird turn.
Very interesting.
Very interesting turn. Really important though, once you commit to your full throttle out of 2, stay full throttle. Even through 1. If you lift in 1, you're scrubbing speed that you can be carrying onto the front straight.
Yes. I've done that a bunch of times. You absolutely lose speed if you lift. You gotta be full throttle for pretty much the entirety of this.
You lose almost a second if you lift into 1. These curves, these rumble strips, are the one set of rumble strips that I will say never hit. Rumble strips, like I said at the start of this, make you lose grip. If you hit a front tire onto this rumble strip, your front tire's gonna lose grip, and you need to turn. I've gotten feet off the track right here. I've almost ended up in the barrier over there because I've just understeered off because I hit this curve. Be next to them, but don't hit them. Coming into 1, you might be able to see under the hill that you press pretty early into turn 1. You want to apex at around before the hill crest. As you go out to the hill, it starts to go downhill. You get more weight on your front tires, so it helps turn a lot more. So you lose some of the advantage of the track's elevation if you turn in late. It's weird to say for a turn onto a front straight, but turn in earlier than what you expect. Going through your turn, your apex is a lot more of the turn to make. But the track starts to go downhill, and you can feel it while you're driving. That if you apex here, you feel like I'm not gonna make the turn, I'm not gonna make the turn. You end up eating the rumble strips on the exit. But you make the turn. This is one turn that you want to use all of the rumble strips going out of. If you can drive sooner out of the turn in too late. Next time you can hit a little bit earlier. But you don't want to end up I can guarantee you don't want to end up. No. As you go through the turn, you see the rumble strips on the exit. You see the front straight. And you see how 8 miles can take an hour and a half to walk?
0.9.
22. There's a lot of little intricacies about this track. But one thing I will say, end of the session, check your flag waves. End of the session, I check your flag waves and flag stand. Right there. This is not a pit entry. This is the pit exit.
This is absolutely not.
The pit's this way. There's a sign that says track exit all the way down on the hill.
Also, if I may add, listen to your meetings. If we're giving you a driver safety meeting, we're telling you we're going to exit that way. You coming this way shows us that you didn't listen. So, listen to the meetings.
Yeah. If you're listening, maybe we give you a few tips to come in like you. But we're going to walk in this way because I don't want to walk all the way down there. But that, I think, concludes the track walk. Thank you, gentlemen.
So, thanks
Yeah.
for watching
Or
the
ladies.
video, y'all. Hope we were able to give you some tips. Hope better yourselves for this racetrack. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, leave a comment if you want to see us do this again going forward. We'll spend another hour and a half of our lives doing that.
Yep.
I like before. I've never driven forwards. I need advice driving forwards.
Oh,
Got you.
we got you. And if you're like Ron, leave a comment down below. Shows us that you're interested. Leave a like too. Also shows us that you're interested in doing that. Subscribe for more karting content. And thank you all for watching.
Take it easy.
Peace.